still dancing. I love that. Hello, everybody. This is Vessi Mink. You are watching Ai-Tainment, episode 6. I'm so happy to be here today. I have a very special guest. His name is Dr. Scott Walter. He is a mechanical and aerospace engineer and so much more. We are collaborators on a very special song, which we are going to debut today. Thank you to everybody for tuning in from your neck of the woods, wherever that is, all over the world. Please let me know where you're tuning in from. We would like to really find that out and give a shout out to LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and especially X. And without further ado, why don't we run our sponsorship? Here we go. Thank you to all our sponsors. Metaverse Generation. Big up to Mr. BK Han, co-founder and partner of Music Train Presents Ai-Tainment. What does that mean exactly, Ai-Tainment? And do you know? The future is already here. All right, let's bring up the amazing, incomparable Dr. Scott Walter. Welcome to Ai-Tainment.
Hi, Vesselina. Glad to be here.
Good to see you. You look very cool. And I'm trying to read your T-shirt. I think it says something.
It says, I'm on an ego trip.
Tell me about that.
Okay, so it's a little bit appropriate. It's, as you probably know, I'm a bit of a punster.
Yes,
so
I love that about you.
Making fun of everything with different language. And from the AI standpoint, the kind of the AI is considered the ego, right? So it's how it sees everything. And so the car in the Tesla full self-driving is always referred to as the ego by the developers.
Which car? Sorry, which car?
Oh, the Tesla, you know, the full when it has a full self-driving. So when you look at the full self-driving, there's like an image of the car and everything driving by it. That little vehicle they call the ego car.
Okay.
So that's basically what's being seen by the AI or the AI entity.
How long have you had a Tesla? And do you really let it drive itself?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So let's see. So I've had it. Let's see. Almost exactly. It'll be 2 years and about 3 weeks. Yeah.
Amazing.
It's like whenever the opening of Giga Berlin was, I actually got mine delivered on that same day. So,
amazing.
I think it's in March. And so, yeah.
That's incredible. Did you actually, was this years of preparing for this, or how did it occur? I would love to actually just invite you to share the beginning of your story from wherever you would like, your vantage point of as a young man, as a child. You know, I know that you have much to share. We're so happy you're here. Thank you so much for being our very special guest today.
Sure. It's absolute pleasure to be here. And as you can probably see on my wall, I'm a bit of a space nerd. I mean, I grew up as a child of Apollo, so I just love the space program. Was kind of disappointed when it went to hibernation for a long time. And then all these private companies kept on trying and failing. And it got to the point you're like, you know, the next private company comes along, wish them well, but they're never be successful. And then so SpaceX came along, like, you know, are they going to be successful or not? And like, holy cow, they're actually working out. Who's this guy, Elon Musk? Maybe I should follow him a bit more. And I've always kind of liked electric vehicles because my brother, an older brother, he was always building electric go-karts and electric bikes back in the 60s.
Oh, cool.
And so we used to put them on like Raleigh bike frames, you know, go to what was called Central Salvage, which was like the junkyard that had all the old batteries and starter motors and generators and stuff. And he just figured out how to get them onto a bicycle frame because we were 4 boys. We had plenty of old bicycle frames sitting around and old lawnmower engines and stuff like that. They were always figuring out how to repurpose this stuff. Yeah. And eventually he retrofitted it into like a Kawasaki 175. And so one summer, I think it was like the summer of 77, I actually commuted to work with an electric motorcycle.
In 1977.
1977. Now back then it was a bit tricky. So what my brother had done is he had taken the transmission in there and basically figured out how to shove a starter motor into there. And where the engine head was, that was removed out, and we had two diehard batteries in there.
Mm.
So two 12 volts that could be put in series or parallel, so you could get either 12 or 24 volts.
Mhm.
And he set up he set it up so that we had like a couple of speeds, like that, just to go from 12 volt to 24 volt. And then you had the fact that there's a transmission, you had 5 speeds in there. So we were able to kind of control the speed that way, because at that time, there wasn't the electronics to be able to control the voltage. We'd use rheostats and stuff like that, but they were just really inefficient. So that was kind of the clever way to do it, to be able to maintain whatever speed that you wanted to have. Yeah, and I took that to work every day in the summer of 1977. Want to guess what my job was?
Please tell me. I want to know.
It's ironic. So come on, guess. I'm riding to work on an electric vehicle. Okay. Where do you think I'm going?
I think
it's like between my freshman and sophomore year in college. What kind of job would you have, like in the summertime?
Ice cream parlor popped in my head. I don't know why.
No.
You worked at a mechanic shop. I don't know.
Close. Pretty close. Pretty
car
close.
Washing. You washed cars.
Well, something with not washing cars, but
oil changes.
Oh, getting even closer.
Okay. Tire shop.
Gas station attendant.
Okay.
So I was pumping gas.
Right on. You and Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam.
That was my job, electric vehicle. And what was nice, because I mean, it was that time, it was a full service station, which is like really rare. That we came out, not only did we pump the gas, we would check the oil and check the tires. If they repaired tires, and people had a flat battery, we'd be able to charge it. And of course, I had a flat battery every morning. I came in with my bike, and so I would have enough charge by the time the day was over to make it back.
What did that feel like in 1977? Being able,
it was awesome, because you were kind of a little bit ahead of the curve. You weren't sure what was going to happen, but the range was horrible. I mean, I could get maybe about 5 miles out of it, and it took most of the night to really get it charged up enough in the morning to be able to make that run again. Because these were lead acid batteries, they're pretty heavy, and things weren't super efficient. And like everything was flat except right towards the end, I had a hill. And that's
of course, right.
It was a really narrow road, and there's a lot of cars coming around there. But the first thing I did learn is that there's one part where I was going through that was kind of a pedestrian area that you had to go slow, because a lot of people crossing the road, and none of them didn't hear me coming at all. And they were always shocked when they said, "Where did this motorcycle come from?" It's like, not a motorcycle, it's an electric bike.
Yeah. They probably, like, remember the movie Back to the Future? I'm sure that you do, but remember when he's on the skateboard in the town? Was it kind of like that when
kind of like that. And remember the scene when he's going around and the car drives up in the gas station, everyone runs out. It's like that.
Like
I think 1977 was probably like the last year that you had like full service stations, and after that, everything was self-serve.
That's so
cool. It was great. I mean, that was when the first Star Wars movie came out. I remember going to see the Star Wars movie that summer. So that's how long ago it was.
And it seems so long ago, but it's really not that long ago. I mean, how long has civilization been at its going at the bits, chopping at the bits for technology? Speaking of which, you work for a company called Visual Components. You do robotic simulation software design. Is that correct? Can you tell me more about that? That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, so sort of a little bit of a pivot in that I studied aerospace engineering because I wanted to be an astronaut or build rockets or something like that. And then the internship I had between between graduating and going into graduate school, I worked for an aerospace company and was basically graphing data, the old-fashioned way, with graph paper and data, and like having to draw all that stuff out. And I had just got access to these new computers to be able to go ahead and figure out how to type the data in and actually get the computer to do the plotting. And the next thing I knew, that after I finished my master's, I was invited into a PhD program where they were starting to work with computer graphics. And so I got in like the early days of computer graphics. This is like 81, 82, right around there.
Wow.
And so it was like, and the only computer graphics you kind of saw at that time was some video games. I don't know if you remember Tank or something like that. So basically we get the program displays like that, these wireframe kind of displays, what they called a vector refresh. And I just, kind of got involved in that. It's like, oh, wow, this is really neat. What would you do with it? And then part of it was like to simulate something. And around that time, robotics was coming around at the same time. So I ended up kind of shifting from thinking of like really pursuing aerospace full time to getting more over to robotics. And at that point, the problem was um, the big three was trying to figure out how to reduce their costs by automating more. And the way to automate it was to introduce robots because they're having a lot of success over in Japan.
Right.
And so they bought tons of robots and they were sitting in the parking lots because they didn't know what to do with it. Because they thought they could just roll the robots into the line, they'd start working. It's like, no, they need end of arm tooling. They need a lot of design and everything else. And they begin to realize they need CAD tools for it. And none of them existed in the market. And you needed 3D simulation to understand how the movement of the robot was going around. And my doctoral thesis was like looking and collision detection, being able to actually predict whether an object moving through space is going to hit another one as you were simulating it, and trying to do it in a really quickly, because at that time people were doing it and it was like super slow. They were using solid modelers and all this other stuff, trying to use voxels and all these others at the time, these methods that were just really not real time. And it's like, well, you want to make it interactive. So I came up with that. And it seemed like a natural fit would be develop a program for engineers to use to be able to visualize a 3D scene, and to do it with real shaded graphics. And the way to think of it, I jokingly call it like a video game for engineers, where you do world building like you would in Minecraft, but the worlds you build are factory floors with all the assets you would normally see in a factory floor. So
You're
robots,
brilliant.
end of arm tooling.
Yeah.
The conveyor systems, everything else that you need in there, so they could visualize it and then change parameters and then show the movement that they want the robot to do. And then when you're all done, you can press a button and it will translate that into the language of the actual robot on the shop floor and make the real robot move.
Speaking
so that's
of
what I call
robots,
robot offline programming.
Robot offline programming. Okay, so you're blowing my mind. I knew this was going to happen. You and I met in Adrian Dittman's Spaces on X, and ever since
back in the fall. Yep. In the fall.
Ever since hearing you speak, I just, everybody is so engaged with you. Just shout out to everybody listening. Let me know where you're tuning in from. A shout out to Deborah Deniston. She says, I missed that full service. And I think she's talking about the gas station whenever you were taken care of. And rock on, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. You and I talked about robots because today, specifically before our conversation, how that Tesla robot is looking more and more like a regular human walking. Just 2 months ago.
Looking presidential.
It really. I don't. You can continue with that. I'm listening.
Okay. No, just Now, the one thing is maybe before we continue on, I was looking like, what's that in the end of Scott's name? The FUD. Well, that's pronounced FUD. Okay. And the reason I put it there is that I went into a PhD program, and so I have that. But when we used to just always joke and make light of that, and back in the 80s, everyone when they was doing it, they would pronounce it out. They said, "How's your FUD going?" Are you working on your FUD thesis? And we pronounced it the way it was. PH is and then with a duh. And then with FUD, FUD came out. Started laughing. So that's what it is, because usually the people who are spreading the most FUD are actually the people with PhDs at the end of their names.
See, guys, you heard it here.
Be careful. Be careful, because a lot of times these PhDs think they're like a know-it-all and like everything. It's like, sorry, if you're a mechanical engineer PhD, you know nothing about economics, okay?
Right.
But then again, some of the guys with PhDs in economics don't know anything about economics either. So.
and the FUD word. I mean, there's lots of songs have been written about also don't believe the FUD. But now that we've heard it here, FUD is actually from the doctorates, from the people that actually have the doctorates. So you can actually take their word for
I'm making light of that. I can, the thing is, I enjoy a good joke. I like poking fun at people, and I love it when people poke fun back at me. Okay. So
I'm glad.
So you can just go for it. I'm not thin-skinned in that way. I can dish it out. I can take it.
And you're a songwriter.
Oh, I'm not a songwriter.
You're a song, and I'm not poking fun.
I don't even know what the notes mean, stuff like that. So I can't read sheet. I mean, this is awful, because I've always kind of loved music, the sound of it, but I'm what I call musically declined. I can't play an instrument.
Sorry.
I've never had the patience to learn to play an instrument. I wish I could, but my wife does, my kids all, they all learn to play the piano and also like, the clarinet, the trombone, the guitar, they can do it, and they can read sheet music, but I can't read it at all. And when I look at sheet music and that's when I suddenly realized what it's like to be illiterate, because I've gone through my whole life being able to read. And then to
All right,
realize
that's
that
it.
suddenly I am illiterate,
That's it.
that I
He does.
cannot read music.
My turn.
I have a rough idea of what's going on, but I couldn't tell you. It was like
All right.
what any of that stuff means.
All right, everybody. From wherever
Mhm.
you're listening, Scott wrote these beautiful lyrics for a song. He's a lyricist. Okay, I think you're
I'm a lyricist. Okay, so if you
the
want to
way
get so yeah,
the way
so
that you put these words, they're melodic. You wrote this beautiful poem. Maybe
you
that
no,
you
you
meant.
you found the melody that's in there. I had no idea what, so there was no melody in my head. I just put those things down, and
It's just
every now
magical
and
what
then,
happened. It's magical.
yes, it is. It is. And then you figured it out. And I'm like, my goodness, how did you find all that in there? Because I was not following, let's say, any rule book on how you're supposed to write lyrics.
Me
You do
nor
a little
me.
bit to make sure you get the what kind of is like a beat, but my beat was inconsistent. It's changing. It's not the normal kind of sonnet form or
Well, I love the way you write.
hammer where you go through. So I'm
Yeah.
changing it up a lot just because that's like my mood at that point, and not thinking like, oh, I feel sorry for the person that's going to try to put this to any sort of music.
Did
And
you
then
mean?
you have a talent. I mean,
Did you
you
hold
can
on a
get
minute,
any
Scott.
lyric and
Trying
like
to get
that,
a
and
word
next thing you
in.
know, there's a melody.
Trying to get a
No, with
word
me,
in.
you know me. I just keep going on and on. Get a
Me
word
too.
in. Go ahead.
Okay. I was gonna say, did you know that you wanted this to be a song, and you did this? You wrote Tesla's Dream in 2017, didn't you?
I always say it was no. I
Was it
think it was
2000?
no. It wasn't. It was
No.
like about 2. It was about 2 years ago. It was only
Okay.
about 2 years ago.
So,
Yeah.
did you know you wanted it to be a song, Scott, when you wrote
You
it?
know,
Why did you write
it's
it?
like,
Why did you write it?
okay. So it's a long story. We'll try to get it. And I'll still let you get a
Should
word
I
in
run it?
edgewise.
Should I run the song first, or should we tell the
Or
story
do you
first?
want me to go through? So basically, there's been a couple of times where every now and then it's like, a birthday card or something like that. You just want to write something down. You think, can you do some kind of lyric? And then I never really considered myself much of a poet. And as an engineer, it's like engineers do everything to avoid writing. It's like we just take math courses and science courses, stuff like that. And then when we have to take a quote liberal elective, we look for the thing that's like close to engineering. So I take, all the econ courses I could take until I took as many as you could take, because they had like graphs and numbers and data. But I still had a few that I had to fill out for my degree. And I ended up doing summer classes just to get a couple miles away, so my senior year wouldn't be overloaded with some of these silly things. And one of my best friends is a double major English and history. And he really pushed me. He said, no, you should try to do something, because my writing wasn't that good. I needed something. My verbal SAT was horrible. I don't even know how I got into college. It's like I took it twice and the score went down. And this is despite taking all the classes that are supposed to help you do it. So it's like, it was really 420. Oh, I just realized that was my verbal SAT. Okay. It was only the math was high enough. So it's like, and it's because I really didn't read enough. I read comic books as a kid.
Yeah.
And I read like, technical drawings, space drawing stuff, because that was like what I wanted, but I wasn't really reading, things that would teach you a lot about the language. So I took a summer course on poetry. And it was like an anthology, and it was really tough. I mean, at first it was like a semester course in 3 weeks. So it was like, that's all you did all day. And I just had to write. And I got some of the ideas, but I never thought I could be a poet. And then, the funny story is like, when my kids were in kindergarten, my wife suddenly volunteered me to be the classroom Santa. I'm like, right.
I'm soloing you right now. You guys,
Okay.
you're going to get all of Scott right now.
I'm the classroom Santa. And so I said, okay, I'm just not going to go in there and hand out toys, because the whole idea is if you're going to be invited in the classroom, it should be a learning experience. You've got to come up with something. So I was trying to figure out a script to go along with, what should Santa do? And then I realized, the whole thing about Santa is he's into naughty and nice and good manners and stuff like that. So teach him something about, please and thank you and stuff like that. And I realized, the magic word is please, right? And Santa's supposed to be magical. So I kind of had like the whole idea of what I wanted in there. And I had the script, and I wasn't telling anyone. My wife had no idea I was working on this or anything else. And then I challenged myself to actually put it into verse. And I had never really done that before. And I said, it's got to be in verse, because the only way Santa becomes magical is if there's verse.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of reading that way. And then I ended up kind of channeling a little bit of Clement Moore and Dr. Seuss. It just started going through, and I worked, and I couldn't believe it. I said, had this outline and everything was just coming together. And it's like, wow, this really worked out. And I actually had a magic trick because my wife had given me, like, for a birthday present, one of these Lance Burton kind of magic kit. And I couldn't do any of it. The card tricks, forget it. I just didn't have the dexterity. But there was like this magic box. If you just opened it the correct way, there was either something in there or it wasn't. It was like, oh, okay, this will do the trick. So I worked that in there and realized that, wow, it's like, sometimes you can go ahead and do it. But it was just, what it's like. A lot of times you just don't have an idea and the well is dry and you just have to wait for the inspiration to come along.
Yeah.
And so that there's like an inspiration. Yeah.
Often by just the things that are happening around us and somebody just saying one word or a thought that's heartfelt,
exactly. And the thing is, I've printed that whole, and it went through many versions. I mean, first there was like the version that I actually performed, and then later
Speaking
on,
of which, will you recite it? I would love to hear you recite it. That would be amazing.
I've got to look, unfortunately it's like lost in the archives somewhere. I know I've got a printout somewhere and it's like on hard drives that are like 10 years old at this point, and I've got to find it. But it starts out something like, see what, Merry Christmas, good girls and good boys. I gotta remember. And besides, it's the wrong season right now.
Okay. I meant Tesla's dream.
Okay, let's get into Tesla's dream and where that came from. Okay, so I was like everyone else. It's like, finally, I was a big fan of Teslas, as going on, but it never occurred to me to either buy one or to like invest in the company. And my daughter was always like, oh, have you seen like the new Tesla Model X? Have you seen what the key fob does and all this other stuff? I was like, oh yeah, that's really cool. And I was like really rooting for the company. And it never occurred to me. It's like, maybe this is a company you should actually invest in until like 2019. The Cybertruck comes out. I'm like, wait a minute, what? Why didn't I, start investing in this company? I did. And then I was thinking, okay, I'm going to get ready to buy it. And then I'm Osborning myself here, just thinking of like, oh, I'm just waiting for the perfect one to come along. And finally Hertz like orders 100,000. And I'm like, oh my God, the backlog is going to be 2 years, So then like, as I was walking home, I'm like already sitting there ordering the Tesla and the little hedgehog comes up and everything's like, oh, you got it. So this is like in September 21. It's like, oh, you'll be able to pick it up in like June 22.
Yeah.
Like, whoa. It's like really, really long thinking about, whether to do it. But then I heard that one trick in January was like, well, if you order FSD with it, you might be able to get it a little bit earlier. So I was like, oh, I guess I'll go ahead and order the FSD along with it. Because I was like,
were you scared though of that?
No, because I'd been following it closely and seeing it. And then I think the beta started in December, if I recall, of 2021. So in January 22, you could it made sense to kind of order it with it. So I'll go ahead and get it with it. And sure, it meant my order date went up, but it kept moving all over the place. And I was actually expecting to get it in April. And suddenly got a text on a Saturday. It said, oh, you can pick it up tomorrow. I'm like, what? Pick it up tomorrow. It's like a Saturday night. It's like tomorrow. I was expecting it to still be weeks away. It's like, I don't have a VIN. I don't have, insurance or anything like that. And it's Saturday night. It's like, you can't call my insurance agent. So it ended up being like the Tuesday that I finally picked it up. And it was great. Of course, it didn't have FSD because you had to get into the program. You had to go through the whole thing.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then it was like by June that I finally get FSD. And at that point, what was going on is it was really interesting because you'd drive the thing, right? And you'd be able to see on the display what it was seeing, all the other cars that it was seeing. So it was like a video game.
Yeah.
So the cameras are studying the environment and they're labeling things. So they're saying, oh, that's a car, that's a tree, but it doesn't show a tree, or that's a fire hydrant, or that's a cyclist, or whatever. So it's basically showing the things that are important to it and not necessarily showing buildings or anything else. Right. And it's trying to tell whether something's a truck or a car or motorcycle, something like that.
So it's learning
it's learning, but it's mislabeling things or miscategorizing things because there's so many things in the environment. It's like, oh, what is that thing over there? And and is it something I should be concerned with or not concerned with? And sometimes it would get fooled and like these still objects would get turned into another vehicle or something like that. It'd be kind of humorous. And the funny thing that would happen is like you pull into your garage and you go in there and you're looking at the display. And you end up seeing like these other vehicles that are there. It's like Tesla's dreaming. Okay. So it's definitely imagining things. So I'm looking around and I'm seeing like, storage crate looks like some other vehicle. The bicycle has been turned into something else. So all these things are going on there. And I was just thinking, oh, and everyone's wondering about, whether AI's dream and stuff like that. So it just kind of occurred to me, are
they sentient? Are they
sentient? Yeah. Do Tesla's dream. And I was thinking about that. And then I thought, Oh, that's it. That's an inspiration. Let's see if I can write something about it.
And let's have you share it if you would, right? I would
Yeah.
love for you to share before we play the song.
Okay.
And
Can I share the screen? My screen?
you should be
Or
able to
just
share
read
your
it?
screen. You should be able to, whatever you'd like to do, Scott. You could share your screen if you like. Down at the bottom it says present there. Although
Okay, I'll go ahead and
you could
present.
read it if
Yeah,
you'd like
what
to.
I'll do is I'll just share it for a second.
Okay, sounds good.
And the reason I'm going to go ahead and do that is I think we're going to share this one right here. Share. Okay, so I think do you see that?
Yeah, I do. So we'll bring it. We'll add that
Okay,
to the
now
stage.
see this here. So what you should be seeing is a video.
Yeah.
And so this is what you see on the screen. And the blue car is the ego car. Okay.
Okay.
And that's why I'm wearing a t-shirt that says I'm on an ego trip, because I'm making a joke about ego.
Nice.
And the one thing about FSD is that sometimes you'll come up to an intersection, you'll want to go, and the car just hesitates and doesn't want to go. When that happens, that's because it's having a fragile ego.
Okay.
Right? It's hesitant. It has a fragile ego. All right.
Mhm.
And when that happens, you need to hit the accelerator. And when you do that, that's called giving it an ego boost. Okay. So
like
the bad
that.
jokes. But now if you look at it, you see there's a trash can over there.
Yeah.
And then you'll see it looks like there's a truck or something else. And there's like bicycles over here. And yeah, it sees another vehicle. So it's kind of, imagining or hallucinating. Now, it wasn't really hallucinating because this is not before we had Chat GPT and all the normal stuff. It was basically misidentifying things. The auto labeler was having a hard time because at that point, no one imagined what AI was going to do within 2 years.
Right.
Which is it's just kind of nuts. Okay. So from that, I get this and I ended up pinning it to the top of my account because I did kind of like it. And I thought it would be nice to not get it buried down there. I was hoping it would go viral the first time I put it out. And that's like about 100 people saw it, like 2 likes. I'm like, what? It's going to be better than that. So I pinned it and eventually it's like picked up steam and everyone saw it. And, when I wrote it, it's like, this would probably make a fun song someday, but I'll never meet a songwriter, right, who'd be able to do something like this. So anyway, I'll go ahead and kind of read it the way I, kind of imagined the way it should be. So do Tesla's dream of things unseen? Does your 3 insist that Y exists when its stablemate is your storage crate? Is the garbage bin an X again? Or the heating duct a Cybertruck? Does a weary auto label see autos and it's stable? One more mirage in your 1-car garage. Its invisible friend is just pretend. Hey, green the only. Are our Teslas lonely? We need to find what's in their mind. Dr. Know-It-All, please make the call. Is the FSD chip looking for companionship? We may never know, save for Dojo. We'll soon take back seats in our robo-taxis. So will this silicon stranger put us all in danger as it runs about on another route looking for its soulmate just past the next toll gate? Its attention diverted to thoughts more perverted. Will it stick to its scheme as it starts to daydream? Should we take a strong stance against this pending romance? Dread not this illusion, for it's human delusion. One more deception from human projection. This dry neural net, it's clearly not wet, nor even sentient, despite human sentiment. We tend give intent to things we invent. It's pure paranoia born of pareidolia. Our gift of abstraction is behind this distraction. When we can't comprehend our souls, we will lend to objects inert or even alert. Don't describe intelligence to mechanical elegance. It can't have a thought. It's only a bot. We worry for naught of an AI onslaught. Fear not what you're taught or ids that are bought. Because Tesla's dream is only a meme.
Bravo.
Copyright 2022 by humanity, because I wanted to make sure people realize it was not written by ChatGPT because it didn't exist when this thing was first published. Okay. No help from the AI on this one.
I love it. You're brilliant.
All right. Now I need to figure out how to there. Do you unshare me? Good.
Yes, I did unshare you. And are you ready to hear the song, guys? Let's do it.
Let's
listen
absolutely.
To the song, and shout out again to everybody tuning in. Deborah's here. Aries, hello. We've got Christina's here. Everyone's saying hi to you, and CS is here. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in and for sharing this amazing talk with Dr. Scott Walter. We love you, Scott. All right, here we go. This is the song, guys. Here's the song. Here we go. And the artwork is done by, you did the artwork. Did you do the artwork?
No, I think Rob Ford did, who's
cool.
a follower and friend, and he's like, he knows, he plays with Dali and
cool.
What's the other
one?
All right. Midjourney all the time.
I was talking about the Tesla takeover today on June 17th today, and
yes, is it June 15th or 16th? Somewhere in there. It's that weekend around there. It's around the Father's Day weekend. Yep.
Here we go. Oh, that's Father's Day weekend. Oh, wonderful. Okay,
I think it is. Yeah.
Do Teslas dream of things unseen? Does your 3 insist that Y exists when it's stablemate? Is your storage crate in the garbage bin and X again? Or the heating duct a cyber truck? There's a weary auto label, see autos in its stable. One more mirage in your one-car garage. Its invisible friend, is it just pretend? Hey, green the only, are Teslas lonely? We need to find what's in their mind. Dr. Know-It-All, please make the call. Is the FSD chip looking for companionship? We may never know, say for Dojo. We'll soon take a backseat in our roll-up taxis. So will this silicone stranger put us all in danger as it runs about on another route looking for its soulmate? Just past the next code, its attention diverted, thoughts more perverted. Will it stick to its scheme as it starts to tangerine? Should we take a strong stance against this pending romance? Dread not disillusion, or its human delusion. One more deception from human projection. This general net is clearly not wet, nor even sentient, despite human sentiment. We can give intent to things we invent. It's pure paranoia, born of pareidolia. Our gift of abstraction is behind this distraction. When we comprehend our souls, we will lend to objects inert, nor even alert. Don't ascribe intelligence to mechanical elegance. Can't have a thought, it's only a bot. Worry for not of an AI onslaught. Fear not what you're taught, or is there a but? Because Tesla's dream is only a meme.
That was fun. I had to throw the air guitar in there at the end. It's the only guitar I play.
You know, you mentioned how would a Cybertruck sound, and I went to work, Scott, with the electric, and then I was messing with sounds and stuff. But then my husband said, "Well, isn't it an electric car, Vessi? Like, how does I was like, I didn't even think about that. It is rather quiet, the electric car. You can't really hear it. Is that true? Is it a hum?
It's going to be quiet. They do make some kind of, well, part of it is when they're going really slow, they will make this kind of interesting noise that's coming, I think, from a speaker system. It's not actually coming from it, but it's to warn pedestrians. Okay. But it's a cool kind of futuristic sound.
Yeah.
It's like this low humming sound that will go on there. But again, electric guitar doesn't make sense. It's an electric vehicle. So yeah, so instead of being acoustic, go ahead and do that. but at the same time, you want to get that kind of, it's also metallic and everything else. So
Did I capture it? Did I capture the sound?
I think you captured it. I mean, the only other thing is if there's such a sound that's triangular, right? Because
Yeah.
that's kind of like the shape is, everyone uses a triangle to represent it. So if you
Yeah.
get kind of a triangular shape out of it, I don't know if it would be like notes going up and then down or something like that to form kind of a peak. You know?
I went for it's super fast, faster than a
Yeah.
Porsche that it races.
Yeah.
A Porsche is
It's,
carrying a Porsche. Speaking of which, can we talk about that? What happened when the Cybertruck raced the Porsche with an actual Porsche connected to it?
yes.
I
Yes.
mean,
So it was,
let's talk about that.
okay, so they went out and they got a Porsche 911. Now I think that's like the lowest end of the Porsches. Okay, so it's not
Okay.
like a turbo or something like that. But still,
Okay.
even
Yeah.
your low end Porsche is going to be able to accelerate.
They're supposed to go
pretty
0
quickly.
to 60. They're supposed to
Yeah,
go
they're going to
0
go pretty fast. But the thing
Yeah.
you got to remember is you've got to shift through there. So you have to have a good driver, and they had a qualified driver doing it because they would go out to, I think, a quarter-mile track to be able to do this.
Yeah.
And they showed it racing the Cybertruck. And the thing is with Teslas is that you don't have to go through the gears. And I've seen that myself when I've been around town, and like a Hellcat will come up next to me or Mustang, and the light turns and they just like try to jump out. And then, once they get up to about, 20 miles an hour, they've got to like shift again. At that point, boom, I'm like way past them because
Yeah.
they lose everything there. So you got to be you got to power shift and everything if you want to get a good quarter mile. And so they showed that, and the Cybertruck not only beat the 911 to the finish line, but it also, the
Incredible.
911 it was towing behind it.
It's so
beat the other
it's
911.
brilliant. I mean,
Yes,
t-
that
I
was
mean,
brilliant marketing. Yeah.
the market and technically there's not really any advertising. The people
Yeah.
love the
Yeah.
companies so much that
You just-
they just want to do everything they can to share how
yeah,
much they
yeah.
love.
So you get
what's
the
going on.
viral marketing out of that, and yeah. So and then again, people end up just writing silly songs because,
Yeah,
well, it was, and
I
again,
love
it was
I
just,
love your
yeah,
song.
yeah, and again, it was one of those things that almost kind of, it felt like it was just being channeled. That once you opened it up, once you get
Yeah.
your mind to it, everything just started to flow. And then I think it was like just over a series of maybe a couple of days, and maybe it'll refine it over a couple of weeks, and then it was done.
well,
And then as I got more ideas, and then at that time, people were, I'd see like some new words that would kind of like pop up. So, oh, I got to use that one, like pareidolia. That
Yeah.
people like, well, what is that?
Mhm.
It's basically when you see things in other shapes, like faces where they aren't there. And the most classic one is you look at the clouds, you look up at
Yeah.
the clouds, what do you see?
I
You
often
say, I see a dragon, I see a person, I see this and that. So that's considered pareidolia.
I always wanted
And-
to know what it was called, if there was
Yeah.
a word
And
for
I'm
it.
probably pronouncing it. I think it's like pareidolia or something like that. And then I'm
Pareidolia.
oh, wait a minute, that rhymes with paranoia. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's great.
I have
It's just
a
that
few-
you got to pronounce it right.
I have a few questions for you about some
Yeah.
serious topics. If you're
Sure.
game, let's
Go ahead.
let's duke it out. We'll duke it out about AI. All right. So, are you on the side of AI cannot take over? I mean, even in the lyric, it said it's clearly not wet. It's not sentient. It doesn't have obviously. It's
That was before ChatGPT. Give me a break.
But I know. But I mean, I'm saying, do you feel that we're in danger?
We're in danger of ourselves. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah. Let's
It's
talk
not the
about it.
AI. It's like anything that if it's misapplied, it's
Right.
going to be dangerous. So, we've had a lot of these discussions in Adrian's space, about that and what exactly is sentience and what is consciousness and everything else, and what it would mean to get there. And my is in there. And again, I use a lot of times people read the poem, they read it wrong. It's like, and they think and IDs that are bought. It's like, no, it's not IDs, it's IDs that are bought,
Yeah.
because an id is a type of meme. Basically it's just, it's an idea that can get implanted, and a lot of people are just buying these ideas. It's astroturfing, it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Plant the seeds in their minds that we have to be afraid of the AI and everything else.
Right.
And that's really what's there is like, beware of everyone kind of spreading misinformation or FUD about this, because they want you to be completely scared about it.
So when Elon Musk came out and said, and his concern for AI, I mean, everybody remembers, that's kind of when I started to really, I think, hear of Elon was years ago when he was talking about beware of AI. Because
I mean, there's probably a certain amount of awareness, but it's like with any technology, you need to have always some kind of wariness about what it's supposed to do. And that's part of the responsibility of engineers. Like one of the last classes I take my senior year was called Technics and Civilization. And it kind of looks
I'm
at,
sorry, what was it called? I
it
missed
was
it.
called Technics and Civilization. So
Okay.
looking at the history of technology, actually taught in the engineering school by an engineering professor as opposed to a history professor, looking at the history of engineering and the impact it's had on society and the responsibilities that engineers kind of have, that just because it can be done doesn't mean you should do it, or when you do it, you want to make sure it's kind of done responsibly. So you're always thinking about the impact that you're having and just not doing it willy-nilly. And you have to be cautious of it. But and I think there's a reason Oppenheimer came out last summer, because that again was about a genie, letting the genie out of the bottle.
Yeah.
And it also was, literally the start of the arms race. And, the main argument was like, well, if we don't do it, the Germans will, and that's the end. You kind of have to. And it's sort of the same thing that we can put the brakes on AI right here, but we can't put the brakes on AI anywhere else. We can try to slow it down and stuff like that. And then say, oh, well, we're going to embargo the chips going here and there. And it's like, well, great. Those countries will figure out how to produce those chips on their own. Eventually, maybe we slow them in a few years. But in the way, it's you've got to figure out how to control the whole thing properly. It's you want to have the responsibility of people talking about it and these arguments going back and forth, and whether the AI is being directed by certain different groups because they all have an agenda, and that's just generally always a problem with any sort of technology. It's like, go back to radio.
I mean, it's spiritual warfare. If you think about just radio, like you mentioned.
Well, go back to radio. I mean, the people who controlled the airways control the narrative and tell people that this is what the facts are. And why do you think every time there's a coup, the first thing they do is they seize the radio stations?
Right.
Because, at that point, they get the news out and they tell everyone what's going on. And that changes the narrative. So it's always been that way. There's always going to be these new tools. And in many cases, you have to look at what are the ulterior motives of the people who spread a lot of misinformation and FUD. A lot of times they want you to be afraid of something, so you won't invest in it and look at it so they can monopolize it. Because they're not saying we shouldn't have AI. They just don't want you to get into it because they want to get into it before you. So sometimes I wonder about people who are beating down stocks. Are they beating down the stocks because they really think it's bad, or is because they want to buy it low? And then eventually the fudders, fudding this, fudding that. So it's all those. So at the same time is that you have to be wary of, and again, it's like, what's the best thing to do is if you're a competitive country and you want to have leadership in a particular area, you want that other country to not think it's important to invest in something.
Yeah.
So, it's like basically during the stages of the Apollo, the big concern was like, oh, we're wasting all this money and going to the moon. We could plenty of problems here on Earth. Why are we doing that?
Right.
What do you think those narratives are coming from?
I just saw something the other day.
Coming from outside, from a competing country that wanted to be first. So it's the same thing.
I saw something the other day. Thank you for that. Actually, I really just think this conversation needs to happen all the time because, for the very reasons that we're discussing. It was just the other day again on X. I saw that someone had posted robots are going to build Mars.
Yeah, of course.
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
They're going to also build stuff on the moon, and they're going to be building stuff here on Earth before you know it. And they already are.
Right.
It's like different, not the humanoid form robots, but they've been helping out for a long time.
Yeah, wash machines, dishwashers.
Yeah, wash machine. I mean, even houses are being built, in a different way. So everyone imagines that they go out to the actual job site and build the house right there. It's like, no. The houses are being built in factories now.
Yeah.
So there's that capability, and everyone says, well, that's always kind of been around, this idea of a prefabbed house where you build different sections and then bring it out to the house and then erect it there. But now those prefab sections are being built in a factory with the precision of a robot. So
and they're like pop-ups. I've seen some that like literally
they go up really fast, and they're custom. So the main thing about a house is being built on site is everyone just gets the impression it's custom. It's like, oh no, they're cookie cutters. Come on, like the
Yeah.
developers have like a couple sets of drawings, but it's possible to build these, in the factories where your walls are now straight. Your 2x4s are exactly where they're supposed to be. They really are, 16 or 24 inches apart, wherever they're supposed to be. There are no nail splits. All the nails are supposed to go in there are where they're supposed to be. They've thought ahead of time where all the surfaces are going to run through. And so your sheetrock and everything is like done with perfection. So basically a finished wall comes in there, and you can set them up on site and then lock them down, and everything's square corners. And then it turns out your cabinets actually fit the first time.
Yeah.
There's not adjustments or anything. So it's and this thing about it, it's not exposed to weather or anything else.
Right.
So everything is lined up really well, and it's really cheap, and it can be done a lot faster. So the robots are already doing that. It's not that they're crawling around and doing the roofing or anything like that. Eventually, you'll probably have the humanoid bots helping to construct them on the site. But now this is not a large number of homes. It's like it's happening in many places, but it's not happening everywhere.
Yeah.
But I see that I've done simulations for companies that are building these things, and they've already been doing it for years in Sweden and in Europe. They're starting to do it in the US. I'm aware of like 2 or 3 companies are doing that. A good friend of mine is also involved in that and setting it up. So it's going to be coming. More and more housing has been done that. So it'll be cheaper, it'll be better, higher quality, everything. And that means you can also start playing with different materials. So it doesn't have to be wood. You can start using a lot of steel construction. The thing is, very few people, contractors, have the experience with a steel and using those things in place. And they're like, oh, we're not quite sure how to do it. But if you start doing it in these more factory environments, it's a lot easier to do it because you have the equipment that's there and the know-how and everything. So now these sections will be able to come out with different kinds of materials that would maybe provide more rigidity, less reliance on wood and everything else.
Yeah. Do you have and just a shout out to everybody? I see your comments, everybody. I want to just say thank you for showing up and for sharing and all that you're sharing here. Fear not the machine. We only need to fear ourselves of using the machine, says Aries. Yes, right on.
Whoa, and the machine. Okay, this little joke is that was my nickname when I was running cross country in high
machine?
School. I'll be the machine. So you don't have to fear me. Okay, I don't fear the machine.
We're here with the machine. This is Ai-Tainment episode 6. We're almost done. I am going to sing a song. We're going to make it up on the spot. Scott, I don't know if you know that Music Train presents Ai-Tainment. So Music Train started off on an app called Connect Club, where BK Han and I would be, and a few guests would come in, and we'd say, hey, you have a few words or 1 or 2 words? Vess is going to write a song, and I would write one, record it, and then BK would mint them on the blockchain, and we made NFTs about them. But I have a question for you before we get to that. Do you have, if we're going to talk about Ai-Tainment, the name of this show, what does Ai-Tainment mean to you? And how can people kind of, get rid of the fear of getting into AI, considering that ultimately, if we think of our body system and our brain being like a computer, how we're physically, how we are actually made up, how can they, kind of let go of the, I'm scared to use AI. I don't want to learn about it. I'm going to stay right here on the sidelines.
Oh yeah, I mean,
what does it mean, Ai-Tainment to you?
Well, okay. Obviously, getting some sort of entertainment out of using AI.
Yeah.
So you can either sit there and let it
to attain.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you could do so it could be entertainment or to attain kind of the AI. One is you can just look at nothing but AI generated stuff, and you can say, oh, that's where my entertainment is. I'm watching movies and movies. Or you can interact with it a bit more, where it becomes more of kind of a partner or a colleague that bouncing ideas off of it, and it will be able to show you this thing. So some of the drudgery that might be there can be taken care of for you, but it's up to you to form the final piece. It's more of like an apprentice that's helping you, or an intern that does all the legwork, and that gives you more time to do things. And so I think it's brilliant that I think Microsoft refers to as what they have this AI co-pilot, because that's sort of what it is. It's like it's there. It's not doing your job. It's helping with your job.
Do you have that? Do you have that in your job?
I've been using ChatGPT to help me on a lot of things, and also Grok. So a lot of times it's a really good search engine, or just like want to bounce an idea off it, and it gives me a bunch of them, and a lot of them are like garbage. It's like, oh yeah, I hadn't seen that, and then it gives me a spark of an idea to go ahead and play with it, and then put it in its final form. So that's what I think it's really good for, it's not like it's doing the whole thing for you. It gives you more ideas, exposure to more things. I really think that curriculums need to embrace AI. I mean, the first thing was like,
Absolutely.
oh, we're going to ban this. Just like
Yeah.
when I remember in high school, they're like, oh, no one can use the calculators because the
Right.
kids won't learn how to count anymore.
Yeah.
I'm like, I remember when the calculator came out, I learned more about math playing with a calculator and
Mhm.
understanding how these things work because it was fun. It was way more fun than going through the trig tables, like,
Right.
oh, the cosine of 60 degrees, and you got to look it up. And I actually need the cosine of 61 degrees. So we got to find like these other things in there and
I
do
think
these.
people,
It was like drudgery. And now you do it and you play with it and you have more fun and you're going to do that more. And the
Yeah.
same with like you would ask it to write something in the form of a particular author. And then
right.
you see that, and then you get way more exposure to different kinds of literature. And then
Yeah.
suddenly it opens your horizons. And it's like you may look at some stuff and like, oh,
Do you know what
that's Hemingway. Oh, maybe
yeah.
I should read Hemingway. So suddenly now you're
Yeah.
interested in actually reading Hemingway because you like the way he writes.
I was on ChatGPT 2 months ago. I mean, I use it quite a bit, and Grok as
Mhm.
well. For those that don't know, Grok is what you get when you subscribe to X for
Yep.
$22 a month. You get the AI, which is wonderful, and it takes from all the publications on X, formerly Twitter, as you know, which is
Yep.
really cool. In the moment, you're in an audio space, which is where Scott and I met, and people are speaking kind of another language sometimes, and you
Yep.
can kind of just go right into your AI and say, well, what's this? And of course, you have to double check and see and all that. But with
Right.
ChatGPT recently, just a month or two ago, I wanted to know the top 100 female composers of all time because it's always seems to be
Composers. So you're talking like
composers.
classical
Yeah,
composers?
composers, and
Okay.
there's just a couple, and
So-
it said I can't exactly do that, and I said, are you sure you can't? Why don't you try 10 by 10? And I kind of like prompted it to kind of like, why don't you give me one? Okay, thank you. Let's go for the next one. Then I was like, where are they born? Where were they born? What was their greatest piece? I just was like, really like to
Did it
me, yeah.
did it say one of the greatest composers was Felix Mendelssohn?
For females, for the female,
Yeah. Mhm.
no. Now you're good. Now you've taken me somewhere. Now educate me here. Felix Mendelssohn was not a male.
No, he was, but he also had a sister.
Okay,
And they
his
believe
sister.
that a
That's
lot of his
right.
compositions were actually done by her,
Oh,
but
wow.
he had to take the credit because the
Wow.
whole idea back in the early 1800s. So you can kind of look that up. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like I'm trying to take the credit away from the
Fanny. Her
guy.
name's Fanny,
I
right?
think
Fanny
so. I
Mendelssohn.
think
That's
so.
right.
And
Yeah.
there's belief that she was also a brilliant musician, but back in those days, when women
Right.
were not allowed to do that. So yeah,
Alas.
there's a good chance there's a lot of other women composers that are not known to history because they had to hide behind the name of either a male companion or a pseudonym or something like that.
Just think of all those, the 100 though. I did get 100, and to think that I have the list
Mhm.
of their songs just to go, and then you can go and listen to it, and you
Yeah,
can hear stuff you've
yeah,
never heard. So
yeah.
it's amazing. Gosh, I don't want this to be over, but we're nearing the hour, and I think I have
Oh,
to grab
here,
my guitar. We have to write a song.
here. I get one question for you because we're
Oh, for
talking about
me.
AI,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm gonna try to do this right now. Let's see. I'm gonna try to share.
Scott's got a question for me. Let's see what he's
Go
gonna
ahead
ask.
and present a screen here. So if I go ahead and share a screen.
Yeah, of course.
Share a screen. What I want to do is I want to share a window here. I'm going to share this one right here. Okay, do you see that?
Yeah, the volume's crazy. It just got crazy. I'm gonna add this to this.
Okay,
Yes,
so
I do. Ooh, that's gorgeous.
now was that AI generated?
Oh gosh. Let me do full screen. Let's see. Here we go. That looks, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. I don't know if that's AI generated. I think that that's real because I think I was in the space when you shot that.
Yeah, yeah. So that's we
So,
can still now see.
but it looks AI generated. The only
Right.
reason
It
I
looks
know
AI
that it's
generated,
not
but
was
but
because you shot the photo in the
yeah.
space. Can
Now
you tell
do
us about it?
do you consider that art?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Now, do you remember when? Well, you weren't that old, but do you remember when the camera was invented back in the 19th century? And it basically put artists out of work because up until then, the
Yeah,
artist's jobs was for the most part to record things that were
right.
going on in history. Do portraits and stuff like that, and everything was very kind of realistic. Even though they were like coming up with a biblical kind of scenes and stuff like that,
Yeah.
their they basically kind of were a representation of what things should have looked like. And that was their jobs, right? To record it.
right.
And suddenly the camera came along. It's like, oh, they're all going to lose their jobs. We don't need artists anymore. What's going to happen to the painters?
Yeah.
Well, you know what happened to painters? It became French Impressionists, right? So it opened up a new genre of art that never would have happened without it. So it made us more creative. And then you get,
Totally.
you know, cubism and modernism and everything else. And then, of course, the camera went from actually being yet another medium that artists could use.
Totally.
So it's up to you to kind of imagining the image and getting that. And so this is from my rooftop.
It's gorgeous.
And, you know, I was able to take a couple of early, because it's a Starlink launch, and the Starlink launches are almost always the same. And I already had some pictures of them. So I knew where it was going to be in the sky. And then I knew roughly where I had to put the antenna. And I took a couple of pre-shots and then compared them
So these
with
are
another
all,
one. I did the overlay. So when I put it up there, so this is not that I took 2 images and put them on top of it. That is the actual image that night. It's just a long exposure, about a
So-
6 minute exposure.
so these are all the Starlinks, these little white, these are all of
Well,
them.
those are just the stars that happened to be in the field at the time.
Oh, okay. So
Yep. And
The
they're
launch-
actually, they're not falling. They're actually rising. I mean, I look at it, it looks like raindrops coming down,
Yeah,
but
it
they're actually going up. They're not coming down.
it's so beautiful, Scott.
Yeah.
This is such a beautiful.
And the whole
book.
thing was, I was trying to get the X logo. Or
You
actually,
did.
actually the SpaceX logo. It's supposed to be the SpaceX logo. So
It's amazing.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
so that's
I'm
what
so
that
glad
is.
you
But
shared that.
I'll stop sharing, and then we can get back, because you've got to.
We
bring
gotta
us
write a
out, right?
song. We gotta write a song.
All right,
you and I.
let's
We're gonna
go.
write one. Okay, so what should it be about? Am I going ballistic? Everybody, if you want to find the amazing Scott Walter, Dr. Scott Walter, it is at Going Ballistic. You can see right here, 5 on X. You can find him. And do you respond to direct messages from people you don't know?
I will I've opened them up, because that
Yeah.
way people that are interesting and want to at least find out. If you're offering me a dating service, I'm not interested. Okay, I keep on getting a lot of those.
You heard it here. This man is taken.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Okay, here's every now and then I get some crazy ideas here. So
Okay.
here,
I
here
love that.
I have another poem here for you.
Okay.
Let's see what you can do. It's the Grokky Horror Picture Show.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Wait, I remember the Grok. We
Okay,
talked
the
about
Grok,
this.
yeah. So I excommunicated, but my language was dated. So my words were gated as my prose was weighted. Now I'm hated for that which I stated. My past was excavated,
Oh my
and
goodness.
others were baited to things unrelated. they'll never be sated. My future is faded. My image ablated. Now I'm X-rated and excommunicated. I've been defrocked for something I grokked. Okay, so how do you want to start that? The
Oh,
Grokky Horror
gosh.
Picture Show?
It's the Grokky Horror Picture Show.
I excommunicated,
I excommunicated. How far can I go?
but my language was dated.
My language is dated.
So my words were gated
My words were gated.
as my prose was weighted.
Was weighted. It's the Grokky Horror Picture Show.
Now I am
you're-
hated.
Now your turn. Now your turn to sing it. Come on.
Me sing.
Yeah, come on.
Oh,
It's the
man.
Grokky
I
Horror Picture
excommunicated.
Show.
Oh, this the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I excommunicated. My language was dated. Oh, my words were gated. As my prose was weighted.
Nice. Yes, as my prose were waiting. Oh,
Now I am hated.
I think I'm going ballistic. Come on. I think I'm
going-
going ballistic.
Let's be realistic. I'm going
Grokky Horror
ballistic.
Picture Show.
Hey, the Grokky Horror Picture Show.
Yes, very,
Good
very
job.
cool. I loved it.
Now,
And,
Vessi,
yes,
so
Yes.
we've finished it finally after several months.
Yes, we did. I'm
Fine
excited.
tuning.
hmm
And where can we get it? Is it going to be released to Spotify or something else? And can I post
Yes.
it?
Yes, let's do that. Let's release it on traditional DSPs, and we have to come up with a name. You and I. Should we be the Grokky Horror Picture Show? Should that be the name of our band?
Oh, okay.
Because you see, I don't. I kind of have a label. I mean, technically
Yeah.
you could call it a label. I use DistroKid to release multiple projects, different kinds of genres, music, different projects with different people. And we have our band name, so we could use any kind of band name and release it like that. And yeah, we could also mint it. We could mint it on sound.xyz.
Sure.
And yeah.
You know, I've got a bunch of others here that we can go ahead and put to music.
Unpopular opinion pariah says masterminds. Thank you.
Okay.
Mikey's laughing. Everybody's here. Everybody's here from X. When are you going to be on X again? Where can we find you? Do you ever? Yeah. Do you ever do your own spaces? Or are you usually?
Oh, I never do spaces. I just join everyone else's. But I'm on X all the time. I'm always like showing up in Adrian's spaces.
You're co-hosting.
I don't host my own spaces because I just feel like I'm just crowding everyone else. You know, it's too much pressure. And I don't have my own YouTube channel. I have one that I post a few things on, but I end up on like Dr. Know-It-All. So the t-shirt I'm wearing is a Dr. Know-It-All t-shirt.
I love that shirt.
Snarky thing. So it's because of John that I ended up on this journey. Let's just say I was like always kind of a consumer of YouTube videos, but never thought I would end up in one. And now I'm being invited like weekly to be on 3 or 4 different channels constantly.
Thank you so much for being my special guest today. You're totally lovely. I'm so happy that we met. Big shout out to Adrian Dittman and his spaces, Yvonne and everybody, Asya and all the amazing people that are in his spaces. Great. And just a shout out to X and to everybody who has tuned in. Big up again to Mr. BK Han, co-founder and executive producer of Ai-Tainment. Music Presents Ai-Tainment. I don't know who our guest is going to be next week. I like to kind of do it surprise. You know, and this week we were so lucky to get the amazing Dr. Scott Walter. Thank you so much for being here. And I also, my pleasure. I want to run again our song, and then actually we'll end with our song. We're going to do our sponsors just so you guys can check out our sponsors one more time. Here we go. Thank you to you sponsors. You know who you are. And if you'd like to sponsor the show, let us know. We work really hard to make beautiful promotions for all of our sponsors, and here they are. And one more thing I'd like to mention, I run a music economy show on Wednesdays with Crypto Radio and Hardistry. We talk about the economy of music. Check it out on Wednesdays in Spaces. I am the host, and we talk about music and the economy, and we help out an artist. We surprise them. We help them out. So show up and find out about what's going on. Here we go. That's us. Check it out on Wednesdays. And then also tomorrow's the last day that musicians can turn in by 10 a.m. for the Vibes Music Festival competition. And if you want to check out on X as well, all about that, you can DM me at Vessi Mink. I am so happy to see you again, Scott. I'll see you again soon, and we'll run our beautiful song again one more time. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Do Teslas dream of things unseen? Does your 3 insist that Y exists when it's stable rate? Is your storage crate in the garbage bin? And X again, or the heating duct a cyber truck? Does a weary auto label see autos in its stable? One more mirage in your one-car garage. Its invisible friend, is it just pretend? Hey, green the only, are our Teslas lonely? We need to find what's in their mind. Dr. Know-It-All, please make the call. Is the FSD chip, looking for companionship. We may never know, save for Dojo. We'll soon take a backseat in our roll-up taxis. So will this silicone stranger, put us all in danger as it runs about on another route, looking for its soulmate. Just past the next toll gate, its attention diverted, the thoughts more perverted. Will it stick to its scheme as it starts a tangerine? Should we take a strong stance against this pending romance? Dread not disillusion, for it's human delusion. One more deception from human projection. This general net is clearly not wet, nor even sentient, despite human sentiment. We tend give intent to things we invent. It's pure paranoia, born of pareidolia. Our gift of abstraction is behind this distraction. When we comprehend our souls, we will lend to objects inert, nor even alert. Don't ascribe intelligence to mechanical elegance. Can't have a thought, it's only a bot. We'll reef the knot of an AI onslaught. Fear not what you're taught, or is there a bug? Because Tesla's dream is only a